Hello again, Fishalot. So you took my advice and you got yourself way out there in the ocean and you caught yourself some big, explosive, awesome tuna. Nothing beats catching those fish. However, there's a lot of misconceptions surrounding what to do with the meat of the fish, how to fillet it, how to prepare it, and ultimately how to preserve it so that you don't waste any fish. And that's exactly what I'm going to walk you through in this entire video right here. So stay tuned, let's get into it and enjoy that delicious hard-earned tuna. And you can see from this footage right here on my previous episodes just how fun and explosive these fish can really be, especially when you get into them. We had multiple triple and double headers on this trip. It's absolute chaos. What an amazing time tuna fishing can really be. Now that you got them in the boat, you can see the size of these massive things. Now it's time to correctly fillet them, prep them, and preserve them so that you can enjoy this delicious meat for months and months and months to come. But be sure to check out those previous episodes on tips and tricks to catch you a ton of delicious, delicious tuna. All right, what do you got for me, JR?
Cut up around the collar, behind the pec, open her up.
Yeah.
Cut straight down the lateral line. Yeah, 4 loins for every tuna. Right on down the back.
All right, yep, down the back there, yeah. For all the people in Delaware that don't want to pay to have a fish fillet.
Gonna hit a tough spot right up around this dorsal fin. Get a little cut around her. Right down. Open her up. Slide that knife right down the back.
Surgeon's work, JR. Surgeon's work.
Somebody's got to do it.
Yeah, it's a nice looking piece of meat right there.
And got the fin and bloodline.
Yeah, cut right through the bone right there.
Right down the back bone. Open her up.
Slow is smooth, smooth is fast.
Something like that. Try not to poke yourself in the finger with a knife.
Very nice.
Down the belly.
And now you only have to do this, JR, 13 more times. So
14, 9 more times. I got 3 done.
14 total. Okay.
13 total.
13 total. I can't add or do math. Fishalots, and I just had a great day of tuna fishing, and you have an entire 50-gallon cooler filled with your delicious, delicious tuna. Look at that, that's 1 bag. I got 5 bags of these in here, but it's not time to start cutting these up yet. Let me show you how to prepare this in order to cut these up into steaks before you eat it. This is a very common mistake that folks make, and I'm going to show you how to avoid some pitfalls here. Super, super easy, just using some paper towels. All right, and so what you want to do is you want to grab yourself some paper towels here, right? And really what we're going to do is we're going to drain the blood out of the quarters of the tuna. And so what happens is what people will do, they get the tuna home and they'll want to cut it up into steaks and they'll want to eat it right away, but there's still a ton of blood in that tuna. Yes, we bled the tuna. Yes, we put the tuna on ice, but there's still a lot of blood in that meat and you want to get it out. And what I recommend here is lint-free paper towels, okay? You don't want lint getting all over your fish. You don't want to be eating lint. And so my recommendation here is Bounty. Bounty makes some really good paper towels that are lint-free. So you can use any brand, just make sure they're lint-free. All right, here's our first giant chunk of yellowfin steak right there. And that is just an awesome piece of fish. So now let's bring it over here to the table. I'm gonna lay it right down in the cookie sheet. And now I'm just gonna cover it. So you can already see some of the blood on there. Look at that, it's soaking right through already. The blood is on there. You just wanna cover it so all the blood gets soaked up, and that'll be fine right there. And of course, with this amount of tuna like this, you're gonna need more than 1 baking sheet. So you know, I hope you have a lot of baking sheets, and I hope you have a lot of paper towels, just something to prepare for when you are preparing your tuna for the next day's cutting and staking and consumption, hopefully. Is, you know, make sure you have enough baking sheets, make sure you have room in the freezer. This is a lot of fish. That's perfect. That's exactly what you want. The blood soaking through the paper towels. You want to absorb all that blood so that you can cut it in the morning and you're gonna have delicious tuna steaks when you're ready to eat them. And let me show you something else here. So the whole reason why we're doing this is to get a lot of that blood right there out of the tuna. You can see it's still very bloody, but this meat is still very soft. And so what'll happen is when you get the blood out and you put it overnight in something very cool like your refrigerator or on ice, this meat will firm up, and that'll be perfect for cutting steaks when you're ready to eventually steak the tuna, use it for sashimi, or whatever you're looking to do with it. And this is a good reason why you should prepare for your tuna trips and clean out your refrigerator. This is gonna be 2. That's so heavy. I don't even know if this is gonna fit in here. And all right, so we'll give this the night and we'll start cutting it up tomorrow morning. And all right, fish lots, it's the next day, and let's see how our tuna came out. There we go. Now you can see already all that blood that came through those paper towels. That's perfect. That's exactly what you want. You can see a lot of blood in there. All right, let's take one out and see what we got. There we go. That paper towel peels right off. No lint. All right, now let's take a look at this meat right here. This is perfect. This is exactly what you want right here. Look at that. That is perfect sushi grade meat. And this is firm. As you can tell, much firmer than it was before. This way, when you cut your steaks, and you're gonna see right here in a minute, it's going to come out just absolutely perfect. You're not going to tear the meat. You're not going to pull on the meat. It's just going to cut super well. Now, the first thing to go here, and I'm just going to show you, is this black right here. This is the lateral line. This is no good. This is just nasty meat. But take a look. This meat is so firm now because we got all the blood out. You could basically just peel this away with your finger. You see that? That is just the awesomeness of this technique that I'm showing you. You can literally just peel this away, not even cut it. Just look at that. That's great. It's gonna come out super nice. Of course, we're gonna use a knife because it's gonna come out much better with a knife than me pulling at it. But I just wanted to show you that as a point where you can literally just pull this straight off, just like that. Look at that. That's all the dark meat. It's gonna come right off. It's really nice. But you can only do this if you wrap this up for a day and put it in your refrigerator or put it on ice immediately when you get home. This way all the blood drains out of the meat and the meat firms up perfectly so that you could steak your tuna. And all right, guys, here's another look. I mean, look at all that blood that was captured by these paper towels. That is just perfect. Look at all that. We get rid of all that nastiness. Now we have a nice, beautiful, firm piece of tuna. Look, it peels right off. The no lint paper towels is where it's at. That is really what you need, or else, you know, you'd have white stuff all over this. You'd have lint all over it. It would just be really gross. You don't want to eat lint and stuff. That's like eating things out of your dryer. But look at that, peels right off. No issues whatsoever. And now this is a nice firm tuna quarter in which we can now steak up, which is exactly what we're gonna do right now. All right, now this is that first piece of meat that I was showing you. See, I already started to pull back the meat just with my fingers because we firmed it all up. So what we're gonna do now is we're gonna cut the rest of this out. Now here's my trusty Dexter Russell knife. I absolutely love these things. I recommend Dexter Russells for anybody looking to fillet fish. And really all we're gonna do is we're just gonna cut away all this black stuff without wasting any of the good tuna meat. And I'm just gonna kind of peel it back. And when you're real careful like this, because for anything like me, you don't want to waste any of this, you're just going to peel it all back and take it out, just like that. And you can see how nice this is going to come out right here. That's all the perfect meat that I'm pointing to the knife. And this is all that dark, nasty meat. You can see the difference right there. So we're going to continue to peel it back, and we just make some incisions right here. There we go. That's it. That's how easy that is to get that off right there. So now we got a nice chunk of meat right here, and this is exactly how I'm gonna steak it. I'm just gonna make it into portionable sizes, right? Look how it cuts. And look at how that cut. That is absolutely a perfect piece of meat right there, and we're just gonna keep going. And just gonna run that knife through, and you can see that meat coming right out. Another good, perfect piece of tuna meat right there. That is just so nice. And there you go. That is some delicious looking tuna right there. Perfectly cut, perfectly steaked. I didn't damage any of the meat. As you can tell from these cuts right here, right? If you tried to cut this when it was still fresh before you refrigerated it, you would kind of fray and tear and pull all the meat, and it just wouldn't come out nearly as nice looking, nearly as clean. This meat is firm enough where we could really steak these. And I mean, look at that. That is a perfect tuna steak right there. And we're gonna eat this up later tonight, and it's gonna be so delicious. And all right, Fishalots, just as a quick side note, if you're ever interested in eating this raw and eating it like sashimi, all you have to do is just cut a chunk of tuna the way you like it, just like this, and whatever size you like it. So I can make this extra thin and cut it in half. You know, I can make this a big block of tuna, a smaller block of tuna. It doesn't really matter. But the important thing is when cutting this for sashimi is notice the layers of muscle right here. So these are the tendons holding all the muscles together. The important thing here is to cut against the grain. So I'm gonna cut perpendicular to these lines right here, and that is how you make sashimi. So there it is right there. That's a sashimi piece of tuna right there. We'll lay it right down like that. And again, I am not a professional chef, nor do I pretend to be, but I do know enough on how to prepare and cook my fish, and I would like to present that to you here on Fishing with Johnnyfishalot. And here you go. So here is our sashimi pieces. And that's really it. I mean, it's literally that simple to make sashimi, and then I could eat all this tuna raw, and it's absolutely delicious. That is a lot of tuna. What are you gonna do with all this meat? This stuff stays great in the refrigerator for about 5 days. So you could have tuna steaks every day, all day for 5 days, and you're still never gonna get through all this. So what do you do with it? Please, for the love of everything that swims in the sea, don't freeze it. You might as well take it outside and light it on fire. That's about as good as that meat's gonna be once it comes out of that freezer all freezer burnt. Don't give it to your neighbors because they're gonna throw it in the freezer and they're gonna ruin the meat. I got a great technique for you to preserve all this meat and preserve it for years possibly, and you don't have to rush to eat it all, and it's still gonna taste delicious. All right, Fishalots, so I got the solution for you on what to do with 700,000 pounds of tuna. You can't possibly give it all away to neighbors, and if you do, they're gonna freeze it and ruin it on you. So the answer is jars. That's right, we're gonna jar this tuna, and it's gonna be delicious. This is gonna be your final product. Basically, you're gonna buy a mason jar. You're gonna layer it with seasoning, which I'm gonna show you, capers, all sorts of good, delicious stuff. And then we're gonna put it in a pressure cooker and seal it. And this thing will be good for years, pretty much. I mean, I've never lasted years at eating it, but you know, 6 months, 8 months, this stuff is still good. So if I have 900 pounds of this stuff and I jar it all, I can eat till my heart's content. I can take my time. It's gonna be delicious, and I don't put any fish to waste. So no fish in any of my videos die in vain, Fishalots. All right, let me show you the ingredients, and let me show you my preference on how I like to jar this delicious tuna. All right, first things first when jarring your tuna, okay? You got a couple of different options. You got some fairly big jars here, you got little jars here, and of course I got even bigger jars. Now, I will tell you this, the advantage of a big jar is of course it could hold a lot more tuna. However, I will say the little jars are ideal because once you open this, I got this, buddy. Yeah, thank you. Thanks for helping. Yeah, there's Ben trying to grab all my tuna. So I will say the advantage of these smaller jars is once you open this and you break the seal, it's no longer airtight. And so you have about, I don't know, maybe 3 days to consume all the tuna. So if you choose to have a really big jar, something like this, it's fine. It's just, you just have to be cognizant of the fact that the tuna is no longer going to be good forever once you break the seal, and you have about 3 or 4 days to consume the fish before it goes bad. And if you're anything like my household, where I'm the only one that's going to be eating this all day, every day, then something like this may or may not be ideal. So first step here is extra virgin olive oil. All you're going to do is you're just going to layer the bottom of the mason jar with the oil, just like that. Not too much oil, you just want to coat it. Okay, this is going to be your first step. Then you're gonna lay the tuna in there, okay? I wouldn't worry about exactly how it sits in there. Don't worry about it. You just wanna layer it just like that so that the bottom is nice and covered with tuna. So I'm gonna add one more piece in there. And a good rule of thumb here is basically if you can't see the bottom of the mason jar, that's a good layer of tuna. And the ingredients you need for this, again, I like more of an Italian style to my jarring, but there's all sorts of recipes out there. But if you want to stick with the Italian style, you just get some black peppercorn pepper grinder. I like Perfect Pinch Italian seasoning. This is parsley, oregano, pepper, salt, all sorts of goodness in there. Of course, you're gonna need some parsley flakes, extra parsley flakes, and capers. Capers is a really important part of this. It gives it a lot of nice flavor. And then, of course, probably the most important thing to this is salt. Okay, salt is what actually is gonna preserve this once it gets airtight. So you absolutely need to have some salt. All right, so now that we got the initial layer of tuna on there, next up is the capers. So what we do is we just grab a little bit of capers here. You want to do too much, keep in mind about 2 spoonfuls is good. Keep in mind you're going to layer this layer after layer, and so if you add too much, it could potentially overpower your tuna, and nobody wants that. So that's about what you want right there. Now all you're going to do is you get some pepper in there. We're going to use our Italian seasoning. There we go, and that's a layer. So now that's a layer of tuna. You're just going to repeat this process over and over again until the jar is full. And again, you want the layers as even as possible when you're making this. And there you go, now we're gonna repeat the process. So once again, we're gonna use our capers. 2 spoonfuls will be good. There you go, our pepper. This time I'm gonna go with some parsley. There you go, and we're gonna do another layer. All right, now here's an important note here. Now this is my final layer. So notice I'm just about the first ring here of the seal. I want to add some room in there. I don't want to layer it all the way to the surface because when this gets pressurized, when this starts to cook, I need some extra room in there for the oil and the liquids to kind of boil up in order to seal this. If you overflow it, it'll leak around the sides here, and then you may not get a good seal. If you don't get a good seal and it's not airtight, of course, your tuna is not preserved and you're gonna have to eat it right away, which defeats the whole purpose of long-term storage of your tuna. So just keep that in mind. So I'm gonna layer it to about there. That's very important, this first ring. And now I'll show you exactly what to do. So I'll finish this off with my capers. If I can find my spoon. Where'd my spoon go? It's in the capers. Oh my goodness, I'm losing my mind. All right, I'm just gonna finish this off with some capers. All right, now this is the final step. This is equally as important as not overflowing the tuna, okay? And that is your salt. So your salt comes at the very end. What I do is I pour it in my hand because I don't want to use too much. And you just want to coat the top layer with salt. Just an even coat. You don't want to put too much in there, but you definitely want a good coating of salt because again, this is what preserves the meat. So if it looks something like that, you did it right. So it's not like you can't see the salt, but it's also not pure white, totally covered in salt. So that's it. That's about right. That's perfect. We're gonna seal this up, and this is our first jar done of tuna, and it's ready to be cooked. I'm gonna do this 6 more times because my pressure cooker holds 6 of these. So let's get going with that. And this is great parenting 101. If you're busy doing something crazy like this and you got knives laying out and tuna and gunk and blood, you just give the kid some YouTube and he's satisfied. He's watching some trains and some dancing lizards and I don't know what, but he seems content. Right, Ben? Ben, you good? Yeah, he's good. And all right, Fishalots, one last important note here before this goes into the pressure cooker is the outside rim right here. You don't want any liquid or tuna anywhere on the outside of this rim. If you do find liquid or blood or anything like that, take a paper towel, wipe this all down, make sure this is dry, because what you want is you want the proper seal between this lid right here and the jar, because that is what's going to give you that preservation. And another thing is before you put them in, make sure that lid is popping, okay? Just like that, because when this comes out, like this does, you shouldn't hear any popping. So that's how you know it's sealed, is if this slams tight and there's no air in there to pop it. See, right now there's air in there. We're gonna get rid of all that once we put it in the pressure cooker. All right, so first off, okay, we're gonna load our Instant Pot here. This is our pressure cooker full of our tuna. We're gonna seal it and make sure it is sealed. For the Instant Pot, what happens when you seal it is it beeps. Of course, if I turn it this way, it'll open and it'll beep. And then when I close it, it'll beep. Just like that. So next, what you wanna make sure is that this tab is over towards seal. You don't want it over towards a venting because this is how you're gonna pressurize the Instant Pot and cook up your tuna. So make sure this is on seal. Next up, what you wanna do is you wanna cook this for the highest possible time with the lowest amount of temperature. And the way you do this on an Instant Pot is you hit manual and you hit 240. So you see I go down to 239. If I keep hitting the plus button, it goes to 0. So I want it at 240. That is the longest amount of time I could cook this at the lowest temperature. And then you just leave it alone and it'll turn right on. There you go. So now you're pressure cooking your tuna in a jar and you can eat this a year after you're done with it. So we'll give this about 6 hours. I think this takes about 6 hours or so to cook. And then we'll crack her open and we'll see what they look like. And all right, Fishalot, so here's our Instant Pot and let's see how we did. Oh boy, that's looking pretty good right there. All right, that is it. So that is a perfectly cooked jarred tuna right there. You can tell all the layers of all the seasonings we made. You can see the oil in there. And most important is you want to check the top and make sure that this doesn't pop. If this starts popping, right, these are mason jars. That means that it's not airtight. It's not a big deal. It's still going to be cooked. You just need to eat it right away. Whereas an air seal, as good as this one, this is good for months and even years, which is perfect so that you don't have to rush through eating all your delicious tuna. And there you have it. That is a stack of perfectly cooked jarred tuna ready to go right into the pantry. So learning how to fillet and prepare and ultimately preserve these fish is a lot of fun. But what's more fun is actually learning how to catch these fish and catch a lot of them to maximize your enjoyment and your time out there on the water. So if you want to learn the tips to catch these awesome fish and experience the thrill that is tuna fishing, be sure to click on these end cards right here where I show you everything you need to know to load the boat and enjoy yourself while you're offshore tuna fishing. All right, Fishalots, thanks for tuning in. I'll see you out there on the water.